Hey, everybody. Welcome again to another episode of Bioenergetics Beat. I'm Heather Gray, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and certified bioenergetic practitioner. Today is brought to you by NIKKI, Unleash the Wellness Within. It's a non-invasive, easily affordable, and highly effective approach to optimize wellness. It's a wearable device that puts frequency-based living in your hands and on your wrists. Today, we have a special guest, Dr. Vibe, Mr. Stephen Schwartz. Yes, we're going to be diving deep into viruses, bacteria, his new book, Primal Resonance, and everything frequencies. But first, let's all welcome, and I put a warm welcome to Dr. Vibe. Thanks for joining us today. So appreciate having you. When I met you at Cellcore Echo, I just was like, immediately I vibed with Dr. Vibe. And I was like, I just have to have you on. You're just such a fascinating character. And then diving deeper onto your website, I'm like, he's even more fascinating than I thought. So I'm totally stoked to dive deeper with you on this topic. But give us a little bit of background. So how did you become Dr. Vibe? Usually there's a story that takes us kind of into this alternative world, you know, outside of the Western model per se. So what's your backstory? What brought you here?
Oh, thank you, Heather. So yeah, thanks for having me on your podcast. It's really actually interesting because you're in Colorado and this whole story began in Colorado. People do call me Dr. Vibe. I am Dr. Stephen Schwartz is my real professional name. And really when I was living in Colorado, I was definitely Dr. Stephen Schwartz. And I ran a chiropractor by license. And really, I graduated chiropractic school in 1998 and I moved to Colorado in 1999. And I had my spiritual awakening in 2000 and when I went to San Diego. And it was all based around infectious agents. So I love that we're going to be talking about that because through infectious agents is what really opened up my entire career to vibrational resonance. I remember my mother was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease when I was in chiropractic school. And I remember she saying, what can chiropractic or holistic medicine do for me? And I remember saying, as a new student, I was like, I don't even know. I don't know what autoimmune disease is. And this was in the mid 90s. A lot more information about it now. But when I read the definition, I was like, wow, that sounds like something holistic medicine should handle. For some unknown reason, the immune system becomes hypersensitive, begins attacking itself. That sounds like nervous system dysregulation. As a young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed chiropractor, that was what I was thinking. But that was not how treatment was being delivered at the time, or probably even to now. It was all symptomatic based, anti-inflammatories, immunosuppressive drugs. And so jumping forward, I got my first job in Denver, Colorado, down in the tech center, actually, in a multidisciplinary center. And there was a woman there that was she was a chiropractor. She was also a kinesiologist and had a waiting room full of people working all with chronic illness, chronic degenerative conditions, chronic everything. And she was using energy, vibrational resonance, and getting people better. And I was like, wow, maybe this can help my mom. And long story short, ended up going to San Diego, learning this technique called Jaffe-Mahler technique. I don't think it even exists anymore, but I learned from doctors Jaffe and Mahler about the immune system and about infectious agents and about autoimmunity through the lens of bioresonance, something I never learned in school, but all I know is my body was like, yes. And I went back and I went to undergrad for sports medicine. I went to chiropractic school for sports medicine. When I was living in Denver, I was, Broncos, Avalanche, Rocky, sports fan, but this shifted my career into working with chronic illness using vibrational resonance, and my practice shifted overnight and I began getting these incredible results. And I remember saying to myself, there is a science at play. This is not just, I'm not just tapping. I am a very good healer. I don't even like using the word. I'm a health facilitator. I'm an amazing facilitator, assist people in their healing process. But I believe that I also know how to access a very specific equation of human physiology that can lead to higher levels of health. And that was what I was exposed to in 2000 in San Diego, working with these things. So not until I moved to California in 2015 was I really, and I started making vibration. Wow. wow, I don't even know even where to go with this story. Because really, as I was in Colorado, I started working as a kinesiologist from 2000 to 2007. When I had this, I started opening up a large clinic in Denver. I had an idea of like, I can't use these little energy vials like I learned in San Diego, which is just,
Actually, I'm gonna pause you for 1 second if I can. Just for the more lay people, can you explain to us what kinesiology is, just for those who may not have heard
yes.
that term before?
I was actually about to dumb it down, but kinesiologist, there's two definitions of kinesiology. One is the study of movement. So like, oh, I've heard of kinesiology. You go to school for sports or exercise physiology. They talk about kinesiology, about the study of movement. But in holistic medicine terms, there's something called applied kinesiology, which is a delivery system of being able to tap into your body's energy field and check your neurology for whether it's very simply on or off, like a computer system, like a light switch. And so through as being a kinesiologist, I was able to test information. You might say, what information? Any information. And we can, time permitting, we can talk about this during the podcast because I think it's really fascinating. It tells the whole story. But really information that's going into your nervous system only knows how to do one of two things. It either knows how to be on or off. And in fancy neurophysiology terms, it knows how to, the fancy term is depolarization or depolarization or repolarization, on or off. That's all you need to know. So from the lay person watching this, my question to you is, how do you spend your day and night? Is your nervous system on or is it off? And you might say to yourself as a layperson, I don't know. How would I know? And I would ask yourself, look at your current life. Are you healthy? Are you vibrant? Are you living your are you living your life purpose? Are you in a great relationship? Do you like what you do? How's your diet? Where's your living environment? And if you're looking there and saying to yourself, on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being optimal, 0 is, oh my God, no. If you find yourself on that lesser half of the 5s, your nervous system is probably off. And just based off of that, people that would come into my practice in Colorado that had chronic illness, they were living in that off space. So being a human computer reprogrammer, my job would be to,
I like that.
that's essentially what I was doing.
Right.
And that's what I learned. I was like, wow, I can reprogram the biocomputer. But forget the biocomputer. Let's just talk about regular computer. Okay, boom. You are now a computer programmer. If you're going to reprogram a computer, how do you do that? You need to understand the language of the computer, right? You need to be able to write code. You need to be able to navigate through different windows and things like that. Exactly the same with the human body. What's the language? So this is the question I asked myself was, what is the language of the human body? It's vibrational resonance. Why is it vibrational resonance? I can prove it. Am I supposed to be doing that? Or am I still talking about why I'm Dr. Vibe?
No, yeah, you're on a thread. I'm just letting you run with it. No, it's beautiful because this beginning intro is great for a lot of the people who are newer to this type of work, right? Because a lot of times people, I love the way you said it. You're like, I was a sports guy and then got introduced to this, didn't quite understand it at first, but it just clicked like intuitively. Like I was a hairstylist when I got into Rife technology and some of the stuff that I was using back in the day, and I didn't exactly understand how it worked, but just intuitively I knew that it did. So it's funny how people come into this work and then just have this knowing, right? So I love how you explained about that knowing, but no, please continue with your analogy there. It's great.
You look like a hairdresser, by the way.
Yeah, I was one for
I can see me going, I can see your hair is really nice. Got good color.
It's
So I get it.
natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But,
once a hairstylist, always a hairstylist,
it's true.
whether you're doing it or not. Now you're using Rife machines, which is even better.
Absolutely.
On a completely, slightly different but same side note, do you know how many hairstylists I know that have turned into being holistic practitioners? it's
We're
amazing.
tapped into being of service to begin with. So I mean, it doesn't, and a lot of us, because of all the toxins that we've worked around, we go through our own health journey that take us there.
So we're talking about biophysiology. So this is what happened in San Diego. I came back and I just said to myself, okay, I need to know the science. Like, I'm a scientist. I'm an artist also, but I didn't realize how much of an artist I was at the time. But at the time, I was really hardcore into being a scientist. Like, I want to know why would, and this is another thing for the layperson that might be watching this, listening to this podcast or watching this podcast, may not know. I talk to these little energy vials. I keep doing this. Like, what is an energy vial? It's literally a glass tube of water. That's it. There's nothing special. It's a glass tube of water, but contained within there, they would imprint information. What kind of information? Repeat after me. Energetic signatures.
Energetic signatures.
Energetic signatures. What the heck is an energetic signature? It's literally energetic information. It's based off of the principles of homeopathy. There's all the, it's really hard to talk about lay people. You have to kind of have some level of foundation. But if you guys are following me, homeopathy founded in the 1500s from Samuel Hahnemann, who was the father of homeopathy, basically said, if you take a physical substance and you dilute it by half, and you dilute it by half again, and you dilute it by half again, you keep reducing it down, you're no longer left with the physical substance, you're left with an energetic signature. And that energetic signature is more powerful than the original physical substance. And when you take that energetic signature and you put it into your energy field, your nervous system will take that information and will say, what does this mean? On or off, depolarize, repolarize. See the connection? So these little vials, we would put them into your energy field. We would test for like a strong or weak muscle. Your nervous system would be strong or weak based off a yes or no answer, and or depolarization, repolarization, and on or off. And based off that information, I would now begin to reprogram the biocomputer. And we were doing this, and this is what I learned in San Diego. And it was really profound and it was very effective. So when I dove deeper into this, I looked into two components. First of all, why does water, how does an energetic signature of water work? Water holds memory. Water is a conductor. So if you're holding memory, this energetic signature in the water, put it into your field, we are water. So if just surrounded by, like, we're 70 to 90% water surrounded by this physical structure. So when we take water and put it into our water and we check neurology, we're getting information. So with that same concept, forget the vial, forget about bio reprogramming, live your life. Now you're walking down, you have a spouse. How do you feel about your spouse? Does your spouse turn on your nervous system? Does it turn off your nervous system? I know
I'm going through a divorce, so
okay. I didn't want to say
I know
that.
how I'm going to answer that question.
Exactly. Exactly. So now the good news is that you're actually getting a divorce. How many people don't go through the divorce or I write about this in my book, and we'll talk about that in just a second, but you might be getting legally divorced, but how are you going to go about getting energetically divorced? How are you going to clear?
I've been clearing and cord cutting. I actually talked to my psychic the other day and she goes, emotionally, you have left this relationship. She actually gave me her blessing to start dating. She says, because I have done the work and I have left the relationship. I said, thank you. I wholeheartedly agree.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if you're getting divorced, you're free to date, I would have to assume, whatever that.
Well, there's always that, you're supposed to wait so long. Aren't you, this is a little fast, Heather? And I'm like, no, I've been doing the work. Like I've grieved. I moved through what I needed to move through. I've learned the lessons I need to do. So not to take over into the next relationship. No, I think I'm good. But yeah, try not to let other people's programming rain on my parade.
Well, we shall see. Good luck on that.
Thanks.
So this is kind of the background as we started looking into, okay, water holds memory. We are water. We put information into here. Your nervous system says yes or no. to it, and then we start reprogramming. So we started working with these programs for that. So when we look into the way our cells operate, it comes into our nervous system. And our nervous system is more than just the brain. We're the brain, the spinal cord, we're the autonomic nervous system. We are the living connective tissue matrix. And if you don't know what that is, picture like a spider web, like a really thin spider web that surrounds your cells, every single cell in your body.
You mean like our fascia?
Yeah, well, actually, the living connective tissue matrix is part of the fascia. The fascia is part of the living connective tissue matrix, but it is not the living connective tissue matrix, but it is invaginated into the fascia. And yes, it is that is part of that. And that's the key. So that's actually the true nervous system. And information comes in through the fascia and through the living connective tissue matrix, and it filters into every tissue system and cell of the body. And that information goes into the water and it receives information. And then your nervous system says, what does this mean, on or off? So now we just need to control that information. So that's part of the reason how they call me Dr. Vibe. Ultimately, how I got that name, Dr. Vibe, I moved to California after I wrote my book. And if I could talk quickly about my book.
Finish that last piece up and then we'll break and then we'll come back and we'll dig deeper into your book.
Okay.
How'd you got your name, Dr. Vibe?
Ultimately, 2016, I went to Burning Man and somebody gave me that name, Burning Man. And you know what? At the time I said to myself, I don't want to be a doctor on the fly. I want to be something new. I want to be somebody, I'm always a doctor. And I kind of denounced it. But interestingly enough, after that burn, people, I make vibrational sound beds. We haven't spoken about that, but I make these technology. They're called vibes, vibrational individualized body enhancement systems, based off of that science that I just talked about. I just know that if negative environment creates negative chemistry, then positive environment creates positive chemistry. And so I created this technology called the Vibe system, and you lay on it and it vibrates harmonic resonance music into your living connective tissue matrix and changes your chemistry. As I was putting that in the world, it became, people start calling me Dr. Vibe.
Excellent. Do you remember my response on that bed at Echo?
Tell me.
You said it was hilarious because it didn't normally happen, but it hit a downbeat in the music. It vibrated the crap out of me and I laughed my ass off, like very, very loud, was just belly laughing. And it felt so good to laugh because that was about 2 weeks into my divorce. So I was in a really funny place at that conference of being so in love and joyful with the surroundings, but being so heartbroken and sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just started laughing and like uncontrollable. And I could hear people around me start laughing. And it was just, that bed was so incredible. But I digress. We're going to go to a commercial. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
There's a new word for wellness, NIKKI. NIKKI, the bioenergetic wearable designed to help you feel better and perform better. Other wearables just track how you're doing. NIKKI is about helping you do better. NIKKI takes bioenergetic frequency science to a new level and onto your wrist. NIKKI technology carries frequencies into the body to organize and optimize cellular network, the trillions of cells that communicate by light and frequencies to keep us alive and feeling our best. Physical and mental trauma can upset cellular communication, and NIKKI is designed to help restore it. Touch the NIKKI screen to choose the frequency you want for what you want to do and how you want to feel. Every NIKKI comes loaded with a full inventory of frequency set, including pain, energy, travel, immune, stress and anxiety, viruses and bacteria, allergies, insomnia, daytime bundles, nighttime bundles. NIKKI puts a personal wellness center in your hands and on your wrist. Be better. Do better. We are NIKKI.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Man, if you missed the first half, I'd highly suggest you go back and listen. Otherwise, you're going to be lost on the rest of it. Like so many beautiful nuggets dropped in that first half. But let's dive deeper into Dr. Vibe's book, Primal Resonance, and we're going to tie it into the viruses and the bacteria because that last commercial that we showed you, it was how we deal with viruses and bacteria with the NIKKI frequency, the red light through the wearable tech stuff. But I want to dive deeper into, you know, how you deal with viruses and bacteria, and talking about your book, and what was your inspiration for the book?
Okay. Well, thank you. So my book is called Primal Resonance: Discover the Secrets to Health, Vitality, and Optimal Human Performance. Talks about the top 10 ways on how to reverse aging and degeneration using sound, light, frequency, and vibration. Before this book was a book, it was a clinic. It was a living, breathing clinic, and it that had the top 10 ways on how to reverse aging and degeneration in them. There's a signature chapter in this. It's called Elimination of Infectious Agents. And it's really been the cornerstone of my practice since 2000, when I went to San Diego, because what we learned in that training was that infectious agents is the cornerstone to chronic illness. And what I write about in my book, which I find it fascinating, actually, I'd love to just write a couple of, just to put this in perspective. I don't think people really understand the scale of what a pathogen is. And if I'm going to define a pathogen as a bacteria, a virus, parasite, a mold, fungus, or yeast, mycoplasmal infection, these are things that living inside of our bodies that change the way that we operate, and that can create pathology. So I just want to read this one little short paragraph, because it talks about a typical red blood cell is approximately 10 micrometers, which is equivalent to 0.001 millimeters. So picture a millimeter, it's 0.001. That's the size of a typical red blood cell. Now, the smallest bacterium known is a mycoplasma, and that is 0.3 to 0.5 micrometers. And a virus is even smaller. It's between 20 to 400 nanometers, which is smaller than a micrometer. So as a point of reference, a typical amino acid is 0.8 nanometers, which is small but bigger. So these numbers are so small, they can't even be seen with specialized microscopes. So I just wanted to put out those stats. So this is a great comparative. What do most people do when they're treating infectious agents? Take an antibiotic, take some kind of herb, take some kind of, I don't know, whatever else, some kind of physical remedy, right? But if you have a red blood cell or a typical cell that's so small that you can barely put it on a petri dish, and then inside of that, these are like specks inside of a speck. This takes us into the next realm of physics. So there's two realms of physics. One is Newtonian physics, and this is mass, acceleration, gravity, velocity, the physics that rule this three-dimensional physical world, right? And then the other one is quantum physics, which talks about potentiality and infinite dimensions, and about waves and particles. So when you are working in this 3D world, this is like governs the Newtonian physics, what governs the 3D world. But when you get into talking about the physics of your cells or subatomic particles, you're no longer talking about Newtonian physics. You're talking about quantum physics. And so when you look at these mycoplasmal infections, or these viruses that are so minutely small, they're not things. They're energetic disturbances. That just turns the entire concept of pathogens upside down and inside out and backwards. So if you're going to be treating that way, it only makes sense to treat infectious agents with quantum-based technologies.
I love that. That's amazing.
And we just validated it in my book. I mean, this is not the world according to Dr. Schwartz. This is hardcore science that we did. And based off of that information, what we started seeing was I would muscle test using my kinesiological programs, use these little energy vials, and I would they would program the immune system to identify, target, and destroy infectious agents. It would restore resources back to the nervous system so it can heal the infection. Now, another major component, I'm already seeing all your emails that you're going to be getting. What about this and what about that? Some other contents we talk about here, which is another one of my favorite topics, is about healthy gut flora. We have more germs in our bodies. We have more germs in our bodies than we have cells.
Yeah.
Exactly. They say, I don't know who counts these. I don't know who's the mathematician that does it. They say there's 100 trillion germs in our bodies compared to 75 trillion cells. And most of them live in your gut, and also on your skin. And so if we're looking at them, there's something that goes through your process, that goes through your body. If your body's ecosystem is maintained optimally, these germs live there. They create amino acids and nutrition, and they digest your food, and you get all the nutrients from your food, and it's what creates your body. Like I write about this in my book. Like everybody talks about your immune system like it's some kind of external robotic implant. No, your immune system is created through your food, through your environment, through your water, and through your thoughts. So if your immune system is messed up, it's due to your food, water, air, thoughts. So because it's part of who we are. So when you look at your gut flora, which is activated in you through your mother when you're being born, excuse me. When you go through that process when you're born, it's what begins to proliferate a healthy gut flora. What if your mom had a dysbiosis or a gut flora? Next thing you know, you're off coming right out of the gate. And these are usually the kids that have ear infections or are colically, and then the mom's like, take the other pediatrician, and they give them antibiotics, and the kids never get a well-developed immune system, and now they're having allergies and autoimmune diseases and all kinds of skin issues and things like that develop as kids, and the doctors keep putting them on antibiotics. That's not the answer. They need to heal the gut. So there's a process called pleomorphism. Are you familiar with pleomorphism?
I am not.
I love that you are not.
Oh no. I was like, oh crap, I'm in over my head. No, please, Dr. Vibe, what is pleomorphism?
So it's one of the most fascinating studies of microbiomes that you can learn. So there's a process that happens with your normal germs. If the ecosystem, if the food, if the water, and the thoughts and your environment are all optimized the way they should, everything's great. But if that environment becomes altered or skewed, the germs, the healthy germs, they go through what they call a 3-phase life cycle, which is normal and great. But if the environment becomes altered, the life cycle splits into a complex 16-cycle complex cycle, and these normal germs now turn into pathological pathogens. They turn into
where like some of the gram negative and LPSs come from? No, different process.
Exactly.
Oh, it is.
Everything that you're talking about. So what's happening is it's not like you're catching a cold. It's that basically your environment is messed up, and vibrationally, these healthy germs mutate into a pathogen based off the environment. It's energetic. It's bioresonant, or it's biodissonant. So
the terrain theory and actually kind of, it's that whole terrain versus germ theory, right? But you even took it one step further to where I actually understood it, because Dr. Tom Cowden was at that echo, and I believe that there's a lot of truth to what he's explaining, but I couldn't quite wrap my brain around completely what he was saying, but I did feel like that there was intuitively some truth there. So thank you. So that's what ends up happening is normal healthy stuff then is alternating into sickness and disease. Not that we catch something, but we actually are creating it.
Just because you're exposed to X doesn't mean you're going to catch X. And it's the same. This is huge for everybody that's listening about Lyme disease. I know it's a huge thing. I can't tell you how many cases of Lyme disease I've treated over the years. And it's all about the co-infections, because really the spirochete, whether you get bit by a tick and it's carrying the spirochete and it's in your system, just because your immune system, just because you receive that, your immune system should be able to fight it.
Yeah,
But if you're suppressed or your gut is off and your bioresonance is off and your environment is off, next thing you know, these things is now, it's the same with COVID. Same thing that happened. Are we allowed to even use that word? I'm not sure if that's even.
I think we can.
And the vaccination and COVID, I mean, nobody's dying from COVID, everybody. If you know people that died from COVID, their environment was already altered. And then that kind of activated the immune system in another way. This is very important. So having a strong internal ecosystem of gut flora, paramount. And how does that also tie in to bioresonance? So this is why I actually started, like I said, my whole practice was the only supplements I used in my practice were probiotics, minerals, and homeopathic lymph drainage. That was it.
Nice.
We maintained we needed to restore the gut. We needed to increase the conductivity of our bioenergetic field through mineralization. And we needed to open up the lymph to allow the toxins to drain out as we're doing the bioenergetic work.
That totally makes sense. I tell people all the time, especially in functional medicine, they want to talk about the root cause, and they're not looking at the bioenergetic field, when typically that is the root cause. Because if you are out in your bioenergetic field, it's going to change on how your body takes in supplements and how it absorbs food and how it's interacting with the magnetic field of the earth. And there's just so many different ways that if your bioenergetic field is out, a lot of the physical stuff that you're doing isn't going to work to its full potential, correct?
Exactly. Well, the bioenergetic field is the byproduct of, this is where it all kind of begins. The living connective tissue matrix filters in, it initiates all biochemical processes. The two most important ones, mitosis, how our cells replicate. That's really important.
Right.
And two, signal transduction, how our cells communicate. And when we look at the 7 stages of mitosis, at the very top of anaphase, the first phase, you know what initiates anaphase? Microfilaments, microtubules, intermediate tubules. What the hell is that? Those are the biological materials that make up of our living connective tissue matrix. And you know what? They have one biological function. You know what that is? They have one biological function.
What is that?
They do one thing. They respond to your environment through, this is the key, vibrational resonance. So
I knew I was going to love this talk with you today.
What's that?
Is that I knew I was going to love this talk with you today.
So in my mind, as a doctor, when I'm learning these things, I'm like, okay, how do I initiate how our cells replicate? How do I initiate how our cells communicate? Well, it's through microfilaments, microtubules, intermediate tubules. Okay, from those are factors. So what is that? What is the definition of that material? Well, by definition, the biological function of these materials is it responds to our environment through vibrational resonance. Cool, vibrational resonance. So you're telling me that if we're creating biochemistry, negative biochemistry, because where does biochemistry come from? Can you answer where biochemistry is comes? What initiates biochemistry? This is always a fun question to ask healthcare practitioners.
I don't know. I should know this, but I don't.
Everybody should know this. I would love to ask this to Tom Cowan. I'd love to get his answer. So biochemistry is a secondary effect of bioresonance.
Okay.
We are bioenergetic beings. Uno, I'm in Mexico, and we are biochemical beings as a result of bioenergetics. So biochemistry is dos.
I was going to say environment, which bioresonance would be part of our environment, but it's not the whole enchilada.
Well, I mean, listen, let's just talk about, what am I trying to think about? Like, um, man, I'm having so we have some, we have some nuclear blasts and some stuff like that that falls out. People are exposed to negative toxins around, or maybe down in like different parts of the United States where there's factories, all kinds of chemical toxins. Next thing you know, people are getting cancer and leukemia and all kinds of stuff like that happening because the water's damaged, or there's byproducts through the smokestacks that's coming out. So that's coming into the field, and then your body is receiving that through the living connective tissue matrix, and it's creating negative chemistry, and then that ripples, causing other detrimental aspects of the body. So, okay, if our environment is negatively creates negative chemistry, then what if we put our environment into a positive? What if we have a positive environment? And that's what launched me into working with bioresonant machines. Like, I've developed biofeedback systems in my day, actually multiple biofeedback systems. I've worked with lasers and harmonic light therapy systems. And now most recently, also in 2007, I started making therapeutic music. They're called sonic pharmaceuticals. So the journey of my path has been from, I'm a chiropractor, not a medical doctor, but we think about like pharmaceuticals. I started working with infoceuticals, which are like the information inside those little vials, to now sonic pharmaceuticals, which is information embedded into music, into sound, into music. And then when, instead of listening through headphones or through a speaker coming into the body, because that's going to influence your environment, now we made a device called the Vibe System, vibrational individualized body enhancement system. You lay on it and you vibrate harmonic resonant custom music into your connective tissue, and it creates new optimal biochemical positive biochemical cascades. And we begin to shift your gut. You can start increasing your changing the gut flora with that, and you can start really bringing your body into a higher vibrational resonance. And in that place, lower frequency pathogens that are associated with disease begin, at the very minimum, they begin to become weaker. They become weaker. And now you restore your resources and you become stronger. So when you get stronger and the pathogens become weaker, you begin to heal. And I read that actually in a groundbreaking article on Lyme's disease. I have no idea what year this was. It was 15 years ago, maybe even longer. And basically what they said was all aspects of Lyme disease is based off of two factors: the strength of the host versus the strength of the infection.
Absolutely. I tell that to people all the time when I tell my story of 27 years of undiagnosed Lyme. Like, I was the perfect host. I had my uncle committed suicide when I was 4. So I had a lot of early childhood trauma. I had a celiac disease that was undiagnosed. So now I had a leaky, damaged gut. I was eating a standard American diet. So I was malnourished, all these things that when I finally did get bit by a tick at the age 13, it was a perfect storm because I became the perfect host. So many people don't add up the A plus B equals C, and they think I just got bit by a tick and I got sick. And so then they just focus on treatment. And that's like my biggest pet peeve of, you can't just focus on treatment. You're not going to get better and stay better. Trust me, there was a process in place that made you become a good host. So thank you for reiterating that, because that's something that I yell at the top of the mountaintop every single day, especially in the Lyme world, because they're so focused on treatment.
Well, so the opposite of that is, how do we reclaim your resources? And we do that with the Vibe System. It's designed for clearing cellular memory and shifting biochemistry through bioresonance. And we've done, everybody's, for all the skeptics, they're like, where's your research? Well, we've done a lot of heart rate variability research that shows that the body goes into parasympathetic. And here's another aspect just to talk about the nervous system. And if you guys are not familiar with what the parasympathetic nervous system is, there's something called the autonomic nervous system or the automatic nervous system. There's two components. There's something called the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Sympathetic, fight or flight, where most people are spending their days, eating the standard American diet, rushing from appointment to appointment, in some kind of crappy relationship, some kind of crappy job, all these things, adrenal stress, pancreatic release, high insulin levels, boom, sympathetic nervous system. The opposite of that is rest and repose, or the parasympathetic nervous system. And this is when you can go into sleep stage and actually regenerate. And whatever you're doing in this world, whatever treatments you're taking, whatever pharmaceuticals or supplements or herbs or
you poor thing. So his book here on Audible, and he's in the middle of recording that, as well as then coming on my podcast with me. So his throat.
To finish that one thought, parasympathetic, when your body goes into parasympathetic, it optimizes your biochemistry for healing. So if your body is not in parasympathetic, I don't care what treatment you're doing, if your body's not in parasympathetic, your biochemistry is not optimized for healing. So whatever you're doing, ask yourself this question: what can I do to put my body into an optimal biochemical response to heal? And the answer to that is going to be find some way to get into parasympathetic. One way that we offer that is through the vibe system. Because in that place, it begins to give you resources back into a higher level of expression.
That is absolutely gorgeous. And I feel like this is a great place to wrap up.
Okay. Beautifully
done. So here's the shameless plug area of the time. Where can people find you, find your book? I know now I'm getting we're rubbing off on each other. But yes, how can people find you?
This is going to be a weird podcast. Super healthy. Actually, I would like to share for the record, I live here in Tulum, Mexico, and there's all kinds of healing things going on. I got exposed to something called the light portal. If you guys watch this or you want to look it up, these people are amazing. It's like a shamanic journey using like sound, resonance, vibration. And people are telling me, go do it. It was like a 3 or 4 hour ceremony of them releasing stuff out of my body and singing and doing, different kinds of things. And my body has been like purging. It's been over a week. So I'm not sick. My body is releasing cellular trauma, actually.
And you actually sound a lot better than the last time I spoke to you. Even just a couple of days ago, you sound tons better.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So where can you find me? Couple of things. My website is bioharmonictechnologies.com. So BIOHARMONIC technologies.com. And we're also on Instagram, Bioharmonic Technologies on Instagram. My personal Instagram is Dr. Stephen Schwartz, Stephen with a V, S-T-E-V-N, Schwartz, S-C-H-W-A-R-T-Z. And then I have a great Instagram for my book called Read, R-E-A-D, Read Primal Resonance. And my book, it's called Primal Resonance, Discover the Secrets to Health, Vitality, and Optimal Human Performance. We're finishing it up. Hopefully sometime in August, we're going to be able to have it up on Audible. But right now you can get it off of Amazon. You can also order it off of my personal website, drstephenschwartz.com. I teach, and then we find places for people to bring these vibes into your home. So if you want them as an end user and just for your own healing, go to bioharmonictechnologies.com. If you're a clinic or a practitioner and wanting to bring this into support your patients or your clients, biohacking center, bioharmonictechnologies.com. And if you're wanting to just learn more about the doctrines to the new earth, pick up a copy of my book. And this is what it's all about: sound, light, frequency, and vibration for optimizing human physiology.
That's amazing. Here at NIKKI, we really love our customers, and to show our appreciation, we're giving away a device every single podcast episode. So make sure you go check out the show notes on how to enter. Stay tuned. And if you liked what we did today, you learn something new, make sure that you like, share, subscribe, right? Because that's how this information gets out into the world and that we start to change the paradigm. Also, if you want to look more into our frequency technology, it's wearenikki.com/podcast. You can find all the episodes of the podcast and the information there, and you can use the code BioBeats to get 10% off. So stay tuned and make sure to have a healthy day.
Hi, my name is Stephanie. I came to use the NIKKI actually through my sister who was working for the company at the time, and she had been speaking to me about the frequencies on there and how it had really helped with stress and anxiety and things like that. And I had thought, well, I have stress and anxiety, maybe this can help me too. And in addition to therapy and other things I was trying to do to help myself, I thought this might be an additional tool that would help me. The nighttime frequency really helps me with my sleeping. The pain frequency, I have some issues with my shoulders and that seem to have gotten a lot better. These things I knew nothing about when I got it. So it kind of morphed for getting it for one reason and kind of helping with other things. I found actually the biggest benefit I found is I am prone to UTIs. And I was always on medication, always going to the doctor, always getting them. And the first time I got one after I had the NIKKI, I thought it has the viruses and bacteria. Let's try it. Well, since then, I've had it for over a year. Normally would have about 5 to 6 UTIs in that time. I've had 2 that I've needed medication for, and the rest, I feel it coming on. I put on my viruses and bacteria, and within 3-4 days, it's completely gone. I don't have to have medication. I don't have to go to the doctor or do anything like that. So it's been, in that way, life-changing for me.
A better life, guaranteed. If NIKKI doesn't improve your wellness and sense of well-being in 30 days, send it back for a full refund. Free shipping, free platinum set of frequencies for life, 30-day money-back guarantee. NIKKI, be better, do better. wearenikki.com.